Hello, and welcome to another episode of eBay Scavengers. I'm Mikey, and today with me is Jay.
Hello, Mikey.
Hello, Jay. And today we are bringing you episode number 58. Man, we're moving on these episodes.
Yeah.
And we are going to talk today about some of the questions that our listeners have written in through the eBay Scavengers website and sent us a lot of questions. And we're going to summarize them down to, I think we got about 13 or so we're going to go over today.
Yeah. So let's just jump it's right in. Let's do the first one.
Okay. So we got a question from Charles in Baltimore. He wants to know about shipping options. He said in the past, let me just read his question. I have shipping options in the past, but would it be possible for you to cover when it is beneficial to use regional flat rate boxes? Jay, do you want me to answer this one?
Yeah, because I was talking to Ryan about it. She says she rarely uses the regional flat rate, so I think this is all you. Go for it.
Okay, so let's talk about regional flat rate. There are three types of boxes. It's regional A, B, and C. And they actually do come in a couple different form factors within that, but they're all kind of the same volume and size. Regional A is the smallest, and Regional C is kind of unbelievably huge. I use Regional A all the time. Mm-hmm. I love it. What I usually use it for is if someone's a little bit closer to me in the U.S., mm-hmm. It saves quite a bit on shipping using a regional box over using the standard flat rate boxes. So if I'm shipping something to California, which is one of my big customers because I live in the Southwest and California's nearby, it makes a lot of sense to use like a regional flat rate A box if it's a coat or a sweater or a little blanket or something like that. I would normally have those things probably marked for like a medium flat rate, but the regional A is just this really nice slim size box. Another thing I use not quite as frequently, but still do use it, is a regional flat rate B box, which is pretty much identical in form factors to the medium flat rate boxes.
And now, do you have a map that tells you where those lines are?
You could use a map, and the post office does tell you like what the different regions. I think there's like 6 or 7 zones across the U.S. that sort of determine your pricing. It's easier for me just as I'm printing labels to look on eBay and see the price difference between a medium flat rate and a regional A or B box. You know, to look at the difference between a padded flat rate and a regional A. Sometimes it's just nice to have the cardboard, a little more strength around the item than just like a little bag. So I just look at checkout. It shows me the price of all the different packaging items when I go to print the label through eBay, and that's how I decide what type of box to use.
And does the regional flat rate, even though it's cheaper, is it slower or the same speed?
No, it's the same speed because it's still just a priority mail, so that doesn't really change at all. The only situation that I don't want to use regional flat rate is if I were to ship something to Jay's area in the Northeast, it would make no sense for me in the Southwest to use a regional flat rate box to ship something to New York, for example. That I wouldn't gain any advantage of the regional thing because I'm shipping clear across the country.
Right.
So you do want it to be kind of on your half of the country in general.
Got it. So it's really only good if it's really close to you, closest to you.
Yeah, pretty close, I would say. Like, for me, the divider is, if it's on the bottom half of the country or in the top or on the left side of the country, it makes sense for me because I'm in the Southwest. For you in the Northeast, it would make a lot of sense if you were shipping stuff along the East Coast or in the Southeast, but nothing really past the Midwest.
Cool. So let's do the next question.
So this is a question from RoxyAnny, and her question is about finances. How much of your net income do you take as owners, draw, and how much is left in reserve for purchasing inventory? Do you do it on a percentage or always keep a specific amount of money in your account for purchasing?
So I'll take a stab at this first. What I do is that, we sell pretty consistently every month, so I know the amount of fees that eBay and PayPal are going to take out. So, our eBay fees are about $1,200 a month. So I always make sure that $1,200 is always in there at all times. I never get below that. And then we probably keep another $500 on top of that just for if we need to buy something, at a thrift store. But other than that, we're pulling money out every month to pay our bills. And, I don't like to keep a whole lot of money in PayPal because I always hear those nightmare stories about people's accounts being frozen and them not getting access to their money for 6 months. So That's my answer.
Yeah, mine's very similar. I keep about $500 in PayPal at all times, just so if there's a refund, and my monthly fees are significantly lower. They're only about $350 to $500 a month, so that kind of covers me for most stuff. And I don't pull it out often, so like my PayPal balance right now is about $2,000. I'll probably wait for it to go to 3 before I even transfer it out.
And we actually have really enjoyed the PayPal has like a debit card. And we now use that almost exclusively to buy things, even just our personal items, because you get 1% back. So, on a month when we spend, $2,000 or $3,000, we make $20 in cash back. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, I like the PayPal credit card a lot, the debit card, but I don't actually buy personal things with it. I try very hard to keep it just business, because if you ever had to do audit type things,
right.
Even though we both use software to help us with our taxes and audit situations, I'd much rather keep the personal stuff personal and the business stuff separate in accounts. So I have bought personal things with my PayPal account, but I really try not to unless I'm just flat broke that week. So.
That's interesting. Yeah, I guess we've tried to do that. Like we do have like a personal bank account, and then we have like a business bank account, and then we have this PayPal account, and we try to keep all that separate from each other. But yeah, that's hard for us. So we just, at the end of the day, we just split it all up in our taxes, and it works for us. So, but I do want to stress, you should always keep enough money in there to pay your eBay fees. Like I read these things on blogs sometimes of people that, they start freaking out because they've emptied out their account because they're paying something else off. And then, eBay is like, where's our money? And then, your store is going to get suspended, and like that's a bad road to go down.
Now, I noticed with eBay, if I don't have enough, it just starts pulling from the other checking accounts.
True.
That are linked to it.
True.
So unless those didn't have money, if your secondary accounts didn't have any money, then I guess you could be in a bad situation with eBay.
Yeah.
Jay, you want to read this next one here?
Sure. Its next one is, and we've talked about this before, but let's do a quick wrap up. So this is from Parr, and it says, I would like to hear the pros and cons of opening a store on eBay. I list a wide variety of items and really don't expect it's many people to come back. With that, it seems like a store won't do much for me, and only a listing, it's 50 items at a time, seems like I should just stick with the no store idea. So basically he's saying that he doesn't sell a lot, so why does he need to have a store?
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, we'll link to it on the eBay blog. There's like a little thing that eBay has where you can put how much stuff you put up every month, and they'll tell you if you should get a store or not, and if so, which level works. I think if you're only selling it's 50 things at a time, the store doesn't make sense. But then my answer would be like, I think you should put up more stuff. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to do this, let's do this,
I feel like this question is a little outside of our comfort zone because we're all about like, put up 500 items.
Yeah. Exactly.
Open the basic or the basic plus store. Like for us, we have a formula, and it's not about selling 50 items. It's about selling volume.
Yeah. I understand the people that have send us emails that say they enjoy the podcast, but they have full-time jobs and they only do this as like a hobby. And that's totally cool. I guess I just imagine even if you could put in 10 hours a week into this, I feel like you could still get 500 things up, and you could still start making some serious cash, even if you had a full-time job,
Yeah, I agree. I think, even with a full-time job, you can find that 10 hours and get a lot of items up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got another question here. This is from Maria Loyola, and her question is, what works more on eBay, using auctions or using Buy It Now?
I don't think this person has listened to our podcast very much, but the answer is obviously we're all about the Buy It Now.
Yeah, I'm so frustrated with auctions that, I don't even consider them. So
yeah. I just feel like as long as we do the research and can kind of tell about what an item goes for, we just put it at that, Buy It Now with make an offer, and then let it ride,
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
Jay, you want to take this next one?
Yep, this next one is from Kim. She says, I wanted to know if you guys use the international site as visibility on your listings. I've always used it, but I'm trying to find a way to lower my expenses. At 50 cents a pop, it can get pretty expensive. What do you think about that, Mikey?
I don't turn on any of the options except for my mistake of accidentally turning on subtitle.
Absolutely.
I don't turn on any additional fee stuff. Do you use any of that?
I don't use any of that stuff. We, have a store. We pay because we have the highest store that we can sign up for just because we have so many items. It's like 5 cents a listing per a month, and that's it. I don't even know what that international thing does because as far as I know, as long as I'm willing to ship anywhere in the world, our things show up on ebay.eu, ebay.uk. I mean, I feel like they show up in other places as well.
Yeah, I don't really understand. I thought that was the difference, that they would show up on those European sites like the
Oh, really?
England and Europe
Okay.
and Australia and stuff. But I don't know. I mean, we're willing to ship there, and those international buyers seem to find us regardless. And at 50 cents an item, that is very expensive to me, because I pay 10 cents an item. My store's smaller than Jay's, so I have the one size down store.
Right.
So I pay more per item, and once I break 1,500 items, then I'll step up to Jay's size store. But paying 50 cents or $1 for some of these options, or $1.50, that's crazy to me.
Right.
Like I don't see it working out.
So let me ask you that. We sell about 20% of the sales we do each month is to people overseas. How are those people finding our stuff? Are they coming to the American eBay.com, or are they not doing it?
That's a good question. I had thought that's what they were doing, is they would just go to Google and type in stuff, and Google would throw them at the American eBay. But I don't really know. They could have other ways coming to us.
Well, Kim, I'm going to do a bit of research on that because I could have sworn, like maybe 6 months ago, I was just doing some Googling just to see where stuff was popping up, and I could have sworn I saw their stuff like on ebay.eu, but I will double check that. So don't pay any of that extra stuff. Yeah.
So here's a question from Alan, and his question is, I was wondering, since you two travel a lot, if you could do a show about on money-saving tips and advice on traveling. Is your trip for business or pleasure?
I'll kind of do what we do. I mean, I guess this could be a show one day, but basically, we have another kind of business we do. We do computer work. So someone will pay us to come and do some work for them. And then, so it's a business trip, but then we always make it into a pleasure trip. So then it will stay a couple of weeks afterwards. In this case, we're staying for a month afterwards because, if someone's going to fly at you someplace, you might as well take advantage of that and actually be there and enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And then our money-saving tips is, we have a lot of friends all over the place just because if you're on the internet, I find like you make a lot of friends places, and we always try and stay with people, That's our big money-saving tip is once you have a place to live and a place to cook, I mean, then it's as much to live there as any place else,
Yeah, and I would also mention, Jay, you've turned me on to Airbnb in the past.
Yep, that's true. Airbnb.com is a good place to grab rooms.
Yeah, if you don't know anyone, you don't have a place to stay, I mean, that's a much better kind of weekly, monthly rate for traveling. I think for me, in terms of traveling, I do the same thing as you, Jay. I was on a book tour for almost 6 months with my partner, and it was we would get a little bit of eBay stuff into that trip. We'd always find it like a thrift store, yard sale, but for the most part, we were just kind of on vacation or pushing books.
Yep.
So
and now that we are pretty confident that we can sell things when we're on its vacation, I mean, we still make $100, $150 a day. So even when we spend a lot here, we're basically breaking even on that. If not, it's still making a profit.
Yeah, I guess I do have one little money-saving tip is beyond leaving your store open so you can have that income, is we ship a juicer ahead of us so that we just have a way to, eat vegetables a lot while we're traveling and have, our food costs lowered a little bit because it's fun to go out for a good meal, but I don't need to go out for 3 meals a day.
Yeah. So. I mean, that's how we save its money. Like in Amsterdam here is that we are just cooking. We make sandwiches, we make pasta. I mean, we're cooking rice and vegetables. I mean, it's just like what we would do at home, Cool. Okay, this next question, Mikey, you're going to have to help me with this because I don't know the answer. So it's from Tony Hoover, and he says, eBay puts a limit on people who are new. And he says it's selling a limit of 10, then moves it to a 50 after verifying that you have PayPal, stays at a 50 on eBay feels the need to change that amount. He says, I would suggest you tell new users what to do to eBay to increase that limitation.
I think I have a couple of tips, and I know, Jay, you've been involved in these conversations, so I bet you have some thoughts on this too. But in terms of increasing the limit, if you simply call eBay after a few sales, they will quickly boost you to the next level, from 10 to 50 to 100. Every time you call them, it's pretty much over the phone instant. As long as you show a little, you got a couple sales and good feedback, they will move you right up.
So, I mean, I think if you understand what eBay is trying to avoid, they're trying to avoid someone jumping on, putting up an account, and then listing a lot of expensive stuff and selling it really quickly, and then not shipping it and screwing a lot of people. So they're just trying to see that you have some kind of history, a positive history.
Right. And I think that in terms of getting to a 2,000 item store, one, that's going to take a while. No matter how fast you list, you are gonna spend some serious weeks to get to 2,000. I mean, I'm not there, and I've been doing this for 18 months. Right. Jay, I know it took you years to get to that level.
It took us like 3 years, Yeah,
because stuff's selling as you list it. I mean, you're not just gonna. Anyway, so in terms of getting to that limit, you probably won't even need to talk to eBay, because once you get to the 100 or 500 mark, they just automatically start removing all the barriers and let you go right up. So it's more of a time thing.
I mean, I think we can't stress this enough. I know when you go on other people's eBay blogs or on the eBay forums, it's like really negative, and like they see eBay as like a threat and like the enemy, and it's like, it's ridiculous to me. Like when I call eBay, I try and think of them as like my business partner, and I just talk to them, and I bet they write notes about us, and you know what I mean? Like I bet if you're getting on eBay and like, yelling at them and arguing with them, I don't think they're going to be raising your a limit, because they imagine you talk to your customers just like you talk to them,
Right. So anyway, I don't see the limits as being a blocking thing. The one thing I would suggest is that if you have an existing eBay account, use it. Don't create a new one just because you're opening a store and other stuff. It takes a couple headaches away. Just use your existing account with its good feedback and keep building on it.
I think that's the other thing too, is that when we were starting out, we were really conscious of like leaving good feedback for the people that bought stuff. And we would even like write an extra note and ask people to leave us good feedback, because it was really important at the start, because eBay really needs to see that people are giving you good feedback. So put some work into it.
Yeah, for me, when I print the shipping label, there's a little message at the bottom that goes to the eBay user as soon as their label ships. It says your item shipped, and I say, I've already left you positive feedback. It's an automatic option I've turned on in eBay. It just says like, great buyer, and please do so for me. And I even tell them explain the star system, because I want to make sure I get 5-star ratings. And that's all I do. So there's no personal message that I'm sending by hand or anything else. It's just, it's part of printing each shipping label.
All right, so this next question is one that I'm curious too, because I don't know if I know the answer. This is someone asked, Mikey, have you ever gotten paid for selling those pig bones?
So there's a question from Brian.
Brian.
Brian, I did get paid for selling those pig bones. Thank you. It took 3 times. I don't think I actually made any money after shipping, receiving, and all that. But yeah, I had multiple customers. The third customer was okay with their pig bone, pig spine. And so I ended up getting like $60 out of it. And then once I take all the fees and other stuff out, it probably wasn't a whole lot. But on that note, I found a giant like cow crotch bone or something yesterday, like the bottom of the spine. And I'm deciding whether or not I'm going to list that on eBay. Yeah,
because you guys live out in like a desert. Are you now on the lookout for bones on your walks?
Yeah, so a couple of things happen. One, I started running long distances. So I'm out there, I'm doing like 14-mile runs now, and I'm looking around for bones. And carrying back a cow bone on a 14-mile run, like this giant like 10-pound thing, was no fun, by the way. The other thing is we have a lot of flooding. This summer, like just in our region, and these things called arroyos form, and this water just rapidly moves, like they're like instant rivers that form and cut through all the sand. and they moved all this debris out. So all these bones are showing up, and all these odd rocks and driftwood. All this new desert debris is showing up, and it is changing what I'm finding out there. So I'm finding all sorts of odd things.
So to wrap up that question, if you would sell bones again?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Bones, driftwood, rocks, like there's all sorts of stuff that's just like sitting on the ground that, has potential value.
Yeah, I've been looking for like hornets nests or wasp nests that people buy, but I have yet to actually find them where they're empty that I could pull down.
Now, some of those are going for like hundreds, if not close to thousands of dollars.
Well, because I think the problem is that, I'll see one, but they're actively hornets on them. And so how do you get to it? So that's the thing. I think it's rare to find one that's empty that doesn't have any hornets in it.
So our next question is from Deb in California. And she says, how to list unusual items and get them noticed, especially choosing the right category. You want to take a stab at that, Jay?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I mean, I actually think that eBay is perfect to list unusual items. And the big thing is just making sure you have the right keywords. Because like we're talking about with like pig bones and stuff, or if you're selling like autographs or something of certain kinds of people. I mean, there are buyers out there who have saved a search on those keywords. So if anytime someone puts up an unusual item, it usually gets bought pretty quickly. So I think the whole goal is just make sure you have the right keywords because those people will find you.
Yeah, I totally agree. Language is key. And what I like to do to figure out the language is I usually have to look for the history of items that have sold and try to find some of the key words that people are using. Because usually there's multiple key words around unusual items. Like if it's a mid-century modern, you got to have those words in there.
Right.
If you're doing bones, like we were just talking about, and skulls and stuff, you want words like taxidermy and other stuff in there to help describe it. So
and
you got to learn the language.
In eBay, actually, they gave us a room to write titles now, and man, you should use every single word possible. Don't leave any of that room out. Like I'll see people that list things and they only put like 5 words in it. That's crazy. You should fill it up.
That's crazy.
Color and description and any kind of name and all that stuff, dates.
When you're looking through sales history, look for those top selling items because they probably filled that out just right. Yeah. That's what I'm.
I mean, I am not ashamed to say that we do exactly that. Like we'll do a search for something. I look for the highest price, the thing that sold the most, and I basically just copy it. I like, okay, those are the keywords that seem to work, so I'll just copy that,
Yeah, and if you have a special item, maybe you can say why it's working, like if you have this old vintage item and it's working, that's important. Yeah. Put it in the subject, if you have or tested or broken, all those words in the message subject line can help a lot and sort out confusion later. So.
Yeah. All right, the next question is, someone asked, do you think it's a good idea to sell a book or books on Amazon or eBay?
I would say yes, just because I've seen people do extremely well at it. Do you have the same feeling about that?
No way. I feel like, man, books are like so hard to sell, in my opinion.
Okay, so we have a local eBayer who has way more stuff listed than we do, thousands and thousands of items. And they sell pretty much most of their books on eBay to bookstore. And I have to say, it's impressive how much they get per book. Like they were digging through a yard sale and found books that were signed by Oppenheimer, like the amazing physicist.
Wow.
And personal journals. I mean, some of these books were getting like $2,700 each.
Yeah. Okay. Now that's but that's like even more than just the book. That's like the history of it. That was like a personal owned by Oppenheimer or something. But do you think it's a good business just to sell just like books, because there's always books everywhere?
I would say like anything, you have to sort of cultivate the eye for books. And it's not about like how worn it is. It's like what kind of books are valuable. So you soon learn with books like, if you go into a university and find some like old college textbooks, if there's other revisions that are newer, your book is worthless, right? If you have the latest revision, it can be worth $120. Yeah. So the thing I like to do is just use the eBay app. It has a built-in scanner, scan the the ISBN number on the back of the book, and just kind of get a feel for things. And usually what you'll find is most books aren't worth much.
Yeah.
But when you're in the right place and you can find like leftovers from Sandia Labs that
That's true.
physicists were signing as personal copies, you want those books.
Yep. I guess like anything, if you're into books, then you're going to have that eye, and you're going to find the things that are worth a lot of money. And it seems like these days I'm always seeing just like boxes and boxes of books being thrown away or, taken to the a thrift store, and no one goes through those things. I mean, I rarely do. So if you know that stuff, then there's probably a gold mine out there.
Yeah, we sold a book this week we bought for 10 cents, sold it for $40.
Holy shit.
It was a little thin, like magazine-like book from the 50s. Not a big deal.
Okay, so this next question is from Steve. He says, let's talk about eBay fees. Are they cheaper if you have a store as opposed as not? Do you take fees into consideration when pricing the item? Between eBay and PayPal fees, it's hard to break even sometimes. Do you want to take a shot at this?
Yeah, I think our fees are absolutely minimal from eBay because we have a store and because we're doing enough volume and because we're not using any of the special options. So for me, just listing at 10 cents an item is ideal. And for you, even more so at 5 cents an item. Yeah. And I don't find the eBay PayPal fees all that significant compared to how much income I am walking away with after them. So, I think, Jay, you taught me early on, like, buy stuff cheap, at $1 or so.
Right.
And then it won't matter when you're getting $30, $40. But if you're paying $15, $20 for items and trying to flip them for less than $50, that's a real tight window tight margin to work in.
Right. I mean, basically it's like simple math is 15% for your eBay and PayPal fees. So if I sell something for $10, I'm going to pay $1 of 15 fees. And, that may seem like a lot, but I mean, I could not sell the amount I sell without eBay and PayPal. So it's kind of like it's fair game, like I've got to do it. And so, yeah, it's like you said, as long as I'm paying $1 or $2 for items and selling them for $30 or more, any business would their jaw would drop if they heard that amount of profit, especially since, like the two of us, we don't really have any expensive, we don't have, like a brick and mortar store to pay rent or employees or healthcare or anything like that, like there's no real cost to doing our store.
Yeah, I don't find the eBay fees and PayPal really add up to that much for us. There's plenty of room for everybody in there.
Okay, this next one's all you.
Okay, so this is a question from Alan, and he's asking, is there a garage sale for Android phones and PCs? So Garage Sale is the software I use for listing on eBay. My partner and I both use it, and it's just kind of a way to list a little faster with pre-made templates. It's supposed to make listing a little easier if you're on a Mac. So Alan's asking, what if you're on a PC or have an Android phone? What would you use for speed listing? I only know of a couple. A Turbo Lister is a popular one that eBay pushes.
Yep.
Seller Sourcebook, Octave, I think it's Octiva. And of course, there's the eBay app for Droid phones. So I think there's plenty of options for PC. You can list from the eBay app, which I actually like to do better. I don't like to use Garage Sale on my phone.
Right.
So PC users, check out Turbo Lister, Seller Sourcebook, or Octiva.
And and if anyone is listening to this and uses something on the PC, I'd love to hear that because we're all Mac people, so I don't really know what works on the PC. I would love to use Turbo Lister that eBay pushes, but it's only on the PC. It's so crazy. Like it looks really, really cool, but they don't make a Mac version, which might have made sense like in 1995. But come on, it's like 2013. Like the Mac population is huge now. It's so crazy.
Mm-hmm. It is bad to me. So this is pretty similar to our last question.
Yeah, so our last question is Rosemary in the UK, and she's asking for hints on how to list quickly, like speed a listing, and if any of these, Turbo Lister or paid software help at all. And I think, I'll take a shot at this. I'll just say I don't really find any of that stuff to make it that fast. I really think like the problem is that all of us have a hard time concentrating and focusing, and that's all a listing is you just have to sit there and concentrate on it and focus on it. And we just give ourselves like goals. Like, let's just do 10 things. Let's do 20 things and just do it and then enjoy the day, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it. For me, I like something very similar, which is all I'm going to do today is list, you know, and there's something so calming about having a day where you're just putting stuff on eBay
Yep.
that's going to eventually sell and make you some money.
Yep.
And it's just so relaxing to know that I'm working,
Yep.
I'm having a whole day to just do this. I'm not going to try to do 5 other things outside or go run around, do errands in town or go to a bunch of yard sales. I'm just going to sit down and list.
Yeah, because I always try and like make sure new people know, like I personally don't encourage you to sign up for all these like subscription software, you know, and they all promise you they're going to help you make a lot of money and make things easier. But I think very often they're just trying to get you to, you know, sign up for that. It's monthly payment. So I think if you can do everything on eBay, it's without subscribing to all that stuff. And then once you start to sell stuff and once you understand how it all works, if you feel like one of these subscription services will be helpful, then it's cool. That's my opinion.
Yeah. All right. So that's a nice summary of all the questions we've had queued up, Jay. Is there anything you want to add to our eBay questions episode?
No, I love hearing from people. I love its questions. And yeah, and just go to ebayscavengers.com. We always start talking in its comments. We always go back and forth every podcast. So jump in there and let's hear what you're selling this week.
All right. Thanks, Jay.
Cool. See ya.